From clarkwoods.com, this is Horribly Off Topic, episode number 230. I'm Chris.
And I'm Steve.
Steve, I have a confession to make.
Oh.
And this may be difficult to hear because we have been in a podcast monogamous relationship, I think, for a couple of years.
Did I do a podcast? Did I do any sort of anything in between when we started and now?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, I
think I did prior to now.
Yeah.
But prior to us starting. But no.
Well, my confession is that I cheated on the show, Steve.
Oh no!
I cheated on the show,
and I didn't already know that.
I went on. So the university that I work for. How am I going to get around this without saying that? Okay, the university that I work for has a podcast. Has a podcast about writing.
What is it called?
If I say the name of the podcast, it will very obviously be. It'll be obvious which university I work for because the name of the university is in the description of the podcast.
Can you leave that word out and just say the rest of it?
Well, I think it is the only podcast named this particular thing.
Well,
so
I mean, people could easily search and find it, Chris. You can make it slightly easier for them, but not explicitly say, This is where I work.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they could go right onto clarkwoods.com, click on
and find it
about the author and see. I don't know if it's on there. I think it's on there. Anyway, so it's the Why We Write podcast, and I was interviewing.
Is it RIGHT?
No, that's next week. I'm going on that one.
Why we alt-right?
I can't make that the title.
No, because then we'll get fucking MAGA dinks again listening and being like, oh, wait, they're making fun of us.
No, it's just the write as in WRITE.
Oh.
So Why We Write. And I was interviewing a former student of mine who is also a independent self-publisher. And so they hadn't had that particular conversation on this show before. So they figured talk to Nicole. Nicole Mello is the name of the former student who's an author. She has a new book out called Phantasmagoria. And
is it anything to do with horror?
As I understand it, I have not had a chance to read all of it, but some of them are stories that she first did in my class. So
neato!
I've read some of those. And so we were talking about Nicole's book, and they wanted somebody else from the same community to come and interview Nicole. So that was me. And
community, no.
And so I went into the studio, which was this person's office.
So it was very similar to my spare room.
Very similar to your spare room. Speaking of spare room, which is the way in which you get to Narnia in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. There are some potholes out on the road leading to your house that are so deep that I feel like if not Narnia, Oz, if not Oz, Wonderland. I could.
Do you want to take one of the shovels from the front yard and take the gravel that's at the end of my driveway and fill them in?
I do not. No.
Okay, then. Then drive slow.
Anyway, so yes, the podcast studio was very similar to your spare room, except an office.
Well, this is sort of like an office with a futon and a PlayStation 3.
Right, but you don't have a desk in here yet.
We will,
okay.
And it'll be where that ladder is, I'm assuming.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's what this room aspires to be is where I was.
This is a catch-all room. This is what
catch-all, not a catch-up.
No.
Catch-up room. Do you think we've had this conversation, but for you,
I told your brother last night that if he wanted to come back and he didn't want to live at your house because that would be absurd, he could stay in our spare room.
Oh, what did he say to that?
He said he'd think about it.
All right.
I think. I don't know. I was drinking.
So I know we've talked about this before. I just made the joke about ketchup versus catch-all. Are you? I can't. Remember.
I completely ignored.
Are you anti-ketchup, or are you just kind of not as much ketchup as
I am
me?
Not a ketchup person.
Okay.
I don't want it on my French. Even when I was eating French fries,
right.
I didn't want it on my French fries.
Yeah,
I didn't want I was sort of okay with it on a burger or something. I would never want it on a hot dog.
Okay, got it.
Like hot dogs are mustard only, maybe a dill relish.
Got it. Okay. Just wanted to. So this is definitely not a ketchup rim. Never going to be a ketchup rim.
Well, I mean, Becky loves ketchup. She'll put it on her fucking pizza.
How do you reconcile
Mac
that
and
in
cheese.
your relationship?
Well, she eats ketchup. I don't. Like,
Well, I know, but so it's not that ketchup. It's not that the sight or the smell of ketchup grosses you out.
no,
You
it's just that
want
I don't want it. Like, you know,
Okay.
I'll make fun of her for eating ketchup with pizza, which already has like a like red
Has
sauce on
yeah,
it.
Yeah. It's not.
But I put hot sauce on everything, so like she could you know
Yeah.
hoist me with my own petard and be like, why don't you eat something not spicy for a second, dick?
Yeah. Well, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like me and boiled dinner. Like corned beef and cabbage, I actually get
I'm not-
physically ill when I smell the cabbage.
Yeah. So how did last Sunday go?
They didn't. Well, you know, I think my dad did have some of it, but it was either when I wasn't in the house or I don't know. I
Yeah, because we didn't talk about it last week.
yeah, I thought I smelled it at one point, and it was not that. It was something else.
It was just farts.
Could have been. So I went on this podcast. I went on this podcast, and they were using the mic that we used to use.
The Yeti?
The Yeti. It was on an arm of sorts. That then sort of extended between me and the other person on the show, and over to my right was the woman who produces the podcast. And so what was the weirdest?
There was a producer. Wow.
She had the same headphones that I have,
But she didn't have to talk.
she did
Or
not
did
have to
she
talk.
occasionally have to push a button and be like, well, actually, she was mansplaining.
Yeah, no, she did not have
Or producer splaining. Oh, that's way
producer
too.
splaining.
Yeah, that's a little too much for a portmanteau. That's a sloppy portmanteau.
That's sloppy portmanteau. That's what she said. And not any of the she's I was just talking about, but the canonical she of the that's what she said joke.
Oh, I didn't realize there was a single person that said all those things.
I think it might have been.
You could have just yes-anded me there.
No, I thought maybe I'd
For
find.
those of you that are new to the show, in improv terms, yes-anding means to continue the conversation and progress. What the last person said.
Right.
What we use it for is to stop conversation.
Yes, and so I went on the show. We had a grand old time. The producer did not have a microphone, but she was basically in charge of because me and the other person knew each other so well, but we were I was interviewing her for a show in which probably a very small percentage of the audience has any idea who the hell we are.
You mean you and me?
No, me and the
other person.
The other person. The producer was waiting to, if we got into too much sort of territory of speaking to each other like we knew each other too well, she was going to be like, "Hey, you got to explain." And one thing that they did, and I was, I felt super self-conscious of this. Let me say this as I
Don't slurp your water, for fuck's sake.
Well, it's to highlight the point, which is that she specifically said to us, if you're gonna sip water, she set out water, but if you're gonna sip water, pause for a second, sip the water, put it down, because as we and our listeners know, the Yeti picks up everything.
Yeah, and so do these mics.
They do, and so she would have us pause, drink our water, put it down, with her plan being she was just going to cut that section out. She was going to do some editing.
Ugh.
And
She is making
she is very-
unnecessary work for herself.
No, she's trying to produce a polished product.
Yeah, I mean, back when we used to bleep people's names because we didn't know if saying their first fucking name was a little bit too much.
We weren't supposed to swear. we had a conversation about this before the show, and she was saying, we were talking about how it used to be on iTunes if you tagged a podcast with the E tag, and I think it still is the case. You can tag it, but now you can tag specific episodes. So she's trying to keep their podcast away from the E tag generally.
So speaking. When any children that might be listening, they'll be like, "Oh, neat! I want to listen to these people talk about writing."
Yeah.
Instead of I don't know. What do kids like? Your kids don't listen to podcasts, do they?
but I think because podcasts for certain people came out of NPR and listening to things in the car with your kids, that I think those people are more cognizant of, or people who are building off of that audience are more cognizant of the fact that somebody might be listening to it on a Saturday or Sunday.
If you want to listen to an unbeeped version, you can go to our website. And if you want to listen to an unbeeped version, find it on iTunes as well. Yeah. And if you want to listen to an unbeeped version, because that's the only one that exists.
All right, that is a good unbeeped version. That's a good candidate right there. So what I think it was before the show. Yeah, before the show we were talking. The three of us, and I mentioned, she was going over some podcasting ground rules, and without mansplaining, without being that guy, I tried. I tried to sneak in there. I was like, I've done 230. I didn't say it like that. Somehow,
is this number 230?
This is 230
wow,
right
cool.
here. I had done 220 something episodes, I think is how I put it. And she said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you had a podcast." And the person I was interviewing did. She's younger. And they're both.
She probably listened to one and was annoyed by something I said.
They're both younger than me. But
as you get older, the chances become exponentially greater that people that you encounter are going to be younger than you.
As you get older, the chances will be greater exponentially that the people you encounter will have podcasts.
Yeah, that too.
So we did talk about it, and not that I've been thinking that hard about this since that show, because I've had lots of other shitty things from this week to think about. But one thing I did find myself thinking about on the drive over here is why I am so likely to go into Dirty Town.
You haven't this week, and it's very impressive.
I haven't, and I don't. I feel slightly like I'm holding myself back, but not too much. And so I think just by being cognizant of the fact that I do take the train into Dirty Town so often here on the show. I don't know. You have to learn how to, maybe take a different train to slightly dirty town, make allusions to dirty things. Right. So
where people can understand the humor of it, but also you're not being explicit.
Got it. So slightly.
I used to be like you, Chris. I used to just go right for the throat, and I realized that necessarily would turn off some of the audience. So
right.
And and back when I was younger, I cared less about what other people think. But it's weird, like as I'm getting older, like usually it's the flip. People care less about what other people think. But now as I've gotten older, I care more, which is weird.
Is it that you care more or that you...
I empathize more. I think I understand where people are coming from more. Like if you listen to me at the beginning of this fucking podcast, like when we started doing it, I was way less empathetic than I am now.
Yeah. Well,
which is why, why we've talked about it before. Like, it's cool that James Gunn has been rehired and all that stuff.
Did we talk about it?
Well, we haven't talked about it. Well, we talked about when he got fired and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But if you look, I think the tweets that were found were like from 2009. That's 10 years ago. He was out on a freaking relatively new platform. It'd only been around for a couple of years at that point.
And he was a guy who came, as we talked about, out of Trauma Productions, which that was their aesthetic.
Very, very subversive.
Yeah.
And so he would say subversive things on Twitter. And then, 10 years later, it was 8 years later or something like that. It comes out, it's like, he said these terrible things. And it's like, yep.
Yeah. And he didn't deny it.
Yeah.
And he apologized.
It's like, that was fucking 2009. And like, I think if you listen to like my old podcast, like that, which was about 10 years ago at this point, like, I think I'm even less sympathetic back then, and like, you know, would have said even more subversive things back then. But you know, it's just, you know, it's part of growing up, and I feel like I am growing up instead of growing like older and ornery
and growing down, as old people pressed down by gravity tend to do. They tend to get a little shorter.
I have gotten shorter. I used to claim to be 5'8", but now I like every time I've gone to the doctors, they're like, "Yeah, you're 5'7". I'm like, "Fuck."
Okay. I used to think I was, for a very short time, I thought I was 5'10". It didn't last that long. Then I was like, "Oh, I think my driver's license says 5'9", but technically I'm 5'8.5".
Okay.
Yeah. If you like last time,
well, you've got a couple years on me, so
yeah. So maybe
a couple years of shrinking.
Maybe I was 5'9", and it's just it's catching up with me. This conversation, I don't know if there is more to say about James Gunn, but it reminded me of another thing that I dealt with this week. It's sort of related. I think it was this week. Sort of related to the James Gunn thing.
James Double Guns.
Yeah, it definitely was this week. When did we record? Did we record on Monday, Tuesday?
It was Tuesday because we were being lazy bums all day Monday.
Okay. So I can't remember if this thing I was thinking about came out before the last show or not. At any rate, I had put out this call for sensitivity readers, beta and sensitivity readers for my new manuscript, and this must have happened after the show. So on Tuesday, I didn't see this until Wednesday, but on Tuesday I lost a patron on my Patreon.
Oh no!
And I got they do a exit survey when you leave Patreon, and it's meant to be anonymous, but when you have a small following and one person leaves and there's one exit survey, it's very easy to see like the correlation and
right.
Okay. And so the person who was leaving left me a comment saying that the reason they left is that the creator is disrespectful to women and POCs, people of color.
Oh. And
this was I had a very rough Wednesday because of this, including some encounters with a person of color that I have a very. It was an interview process. I'm trying to see which parts of this I can talk about. I was in an interview process where I was the moderator reading comments from a
YouTube video.
Yes.
Oh God.
Yeah. Well, it was an unlisted YouTube video live stream to the community who this person would eventually be reporting to and serving.
Is it because of all the dirty talk on the show?
No.
Oh.
No. So So don't worry. Worry a little bit because then you'll put yourself in the shoes that I was. So I got that message that she'd left because I was disrespectful on like Wednesday morning. I saw that. And then I went into this day-long interview process. And one of the things I had to do, having in the back of my brain that I am, quote, disrespectful to women and people of color, is read some comments from YouTube that were very challenging to a woman who is also a person of color who I have a very good professional relationship, maybe even friendship with. And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, I didn't feel comfortable with the questions. Maybe they weren't that bad, but because I'd been told I am disrespectful earlier that day, I had a really rough time the rest of the day Wednesday. So I sent a message to the person.
Because you knew who they were.
Because I knew who they were, and I said, I'm really sorry to see you go, and if you don't mind me asking, is there any more information you could give me so that I can correct my behavior? Because I honestly had no idea. What was it? Something I said in the podcast? Was it my Instagram? Was it, who knew? Like something I wrote on to the James Gunn point. Was it some article I wrote 8 years ago?
Or even more. Like, how long have you had your fucking website?
I've had my website since 1999. So
yeah, it could have been 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Jesus, not 30.
Not
like
30,
the internet,
yeah. 20 years.
The internet's kind of only been around for 30 years. Or at least the World Wide Web.
Right. So I wrote to her on Wednesday, and on Thursday morning or somewhere in there, she wrote back to me, and she said that what she was offended by was there's a message board Slack group that she and I both belong to, and I had given the same call for sensitivity readers that I'd given elsewhere. I worded exactly the same. As far as I could tell, nobody else anywhere else was offended by it. But the way she read it was that I was looking for people to do this work for free. And I didn't say that anywhere in there, but I guess especially in that particular Slack community, we're in a community where people are very sensitive to artists getting ripped off. Now, I thought I was seen as one of them. I was an artist, but because I present as a white guy, one of the guys who rips people off, there are lots of white dudes out there who are taking advantage of artists, and I wasn't thinking about that. So that's what it came down to.
But that's different than like saying that you don't respect women and people of color.
Well, so specifically what I was looking for in the list of things that I was looking for breast cancer survivors, and I was looking for I think I said people of color, and I said people of Hawaiian descent, because I was trying to get to like not just a white person who's lived in Hawaii for 50 years, but like a person whose ancestors were Polynesians. I was trying to be as specific as possible.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Well, I wrote, there's a guy who's at Hawaii on Twitter who follows me and I follow him. And I wrote to him and I'm like, hey, Ryan, do you have any suggestions? And Ryan wasn't offended by what I was asking. He was maybe a little bit puzzled at first, which I got another story about that. But, or maybe I shared that on the show last week. Anyway,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Long story short, too late.
Long story short, too late. I was having a very James Gunn moment. So that when the news broke, was James Gunn on Thursday or when?
I don't remember.
No, I was home.
It was a very busy week at work, so I was not really. I just heard it in the background of things.
Yeah. Whatever morning it was, I was home with the kids or evening it was, and I got super emotional about it. Because
you have a super boner for Marvel movies. And...
Well, I do have a super boner for Marvel movies, but also because of everything we talked about when we talked about him getting fired. It just seemed like him getting fired off that movie was everything that is wrong with the particular culture wars that are going on right now.
Right.
Because
we like, the left, quote unquote, does burn their own. The right doesn't. Right. And so like they're like, haha,
yeah,
we can get these guys
because
all we have to do is just play the same game they've been playing with us.
Yeah.
Because now, I don't want to go into.
Yeah. I won't bring up the I'm not having a political conversation that my uncle had with me yesterday.
Right.
Because we don't want to go down that path.
Right.
But anyway, going way back, that's so a lot of thought to like, not that I'm trying to censor myself, but just, what am I saying out loud in this sort of, is not extemporaneous. Is that right?
I don't know. Don't look at me for word knowledge.
This sort of just talking off the cuff format. Is there something that I could be doing differently?
The only way to make sure that you're not going to say anything offensive is to never speak.
This is true.
Because you're like even when I'm not trying to offend somebody, which is what I have been more often than not lately.
Right.
I am probably saying something that makes somebody upset.
Yeah. Well, because there are, I think because there are so many people out there who look like you and me, who have done terrible things in terms of coming out in the media. I think maybe this is the controversial thing I shouldn't say. I think our very existence is offensive to some folks.
Yeah.
I really do. And it's not on them. I'm saying it's on people who happen to look like us and be assholes. And have been assholes systematically to whole groups of people for so long that Yeah, I'm with you. I don't even have to say anything to basically already be
You just hold
offending.
up a jukebox outside somebody's house.
What's playing on the jukebox, Steve?
In your eyes?
There was a Blood of Eden. That's Phil Gabriel.
Good old Phil Gabriel.
I just offended a whole bunch of Genesis fans. Good old Phil Gabriel.
But just that's a sloppy portmanteau of two people.
As with Why We Alt-Right. Yeah, so maybe those will all be in the description, and an unbeeped version will be the title.
Okay.
So we'll see. We still have time. So
Nothing like talking shop, right? Doing the show.
nothing like talking about a show on the show. I want to get to more interesting stuff here in a second.
I'm interested in this.
What you did last night.
Oh.
Because what I did last night was not that interesting. But
You could have come along, but
Okay, well-
unforeseen circumstances. I understand.
yeah. So there's not that much to say about Phil Gabriel, except that
You mean Peter Gabriel?
no, Phil Gabriel, Peter Collins,
Peter Cetera?
the Karate Kid, something in there, right?
Like a knight in shining armor from a long time ago.
I never played that song "In Your Eyes" on a jukebox, but it came to my attention that the girl I was trying
Not a jukebox, a boombox.
boombox, sorry.
Did I say jukebox earlier?
No, you didn't. I'm gonna hold a jukebox over my head.
Man gets crushed by jukebox trying to hold it over his head outside woman's window.
No, it would be man gets crushed trying to be a jukebox hero.
With stars in his eyes?
Only if I was a cartoon, right? It would fall on me. I wouldn't be dead. I'd have stars in my eyes and birds.
Didn't you read the script? Rabbit gets clunked. Rabbit sees stars, not birds.
Yeah. So there was a girl that I was trying to woo in the winter of 1994-95, and I was told by the third person in our love triangle that she really liked this Peter Gabriel song, and I put it on the mixtape, and it played while we were making out.
Oh, neat.
Not making out. We were kissing. I mean, where's the borderline between kissing and making out? I don't know.
Like if you're kissing for, I think, an extended period of time,
Okay.
with or without tongue, I think it's making out.
Right. So it's not. There's no hands necessary.
No,
okay.
I think kissing is all that's required.
Okay.
For
Just
making
kissing
out.
over it. Okay. So we were making out.
Okay.
Because there were no hands going anywhere.
I mean, that could be like, some light petting at that point.
Yeah. No, there was no light petting as far as I recall. But we heard that.
LITE petting?
We heard Peter
Or
Gabriel.
LIGHT petting.
And Love Will Keep Us Alive by the Eagles. That was what was playing when I had my very first kiss.
I had a rough night and I hate the fucking Eagles. Get out of my peaceful camp.
So yesterday, I was not making out with anybody. I was not listening to the Eagles, and I was not listening to Peter Gabriel. But I was having a combined birthday party for my two girls, who even though they're 4 years apart, their birthdays are 2 weeks apart. So we usually do something right there in the middle, and then in the evening there was something I was planning to go to, which you can talk about. But in the preparation for our kids' birthday parties, which went fairly well.
You pulled a hammy?
I did not pull a hammy, but my wife and I have been working out in the mornings. We had maybe overdone the workout that morning, and she, in the course of just cleaning our kitchen, pulled a muscle in her back and had this ridiculous back spasm. And so I spent the day sort of warming up a heating pad to help with her back and massaging, getting pain medicine, actually being a father for once, and
As
being,
opposed to normally where you're just
I don't know,
like, get out of my way, kid.
I have a lot of, and the kids know this. I have a lot of doubts about my abilities as a father, husband, and human being. So I was
Just be yourself, Chris.
I was a more active parent. Let's just say that. Stephanie, I think in the way things would have gone, I would have been there, but Stephanie would have been the one kind of driving the show. But because she was hurt, I was the one bringing pizzas up and downstairs to put them in the oven and helping finish her punch and all the stuff that she would have been doing because she was basically.
What's in the punch?
She makes it's a punch that she makes for.
Do you put sherbet in it?
Yes. Yeah. Sherbet and there's something sparkling.
So like maybe a Sprite.
Yeah, like a Sprite or a ginger ale or something, and then a mixed fruit drink.
Compote?
Not compote, but like a juice. Or maybe a couple of different juices.
Like some Kool-Aid, but then put some Sprite in it, so it's like a sparkling Kool-Aid with sherbet and fruit.
Stephanie would never use Kool-Aid. it's whatever like 100% juice. So a couple of different 100% juices.
That's just as much sugar garbage
saying,
that Kool-Aid is.
Kool-Aid is Kool-Aid.
The only benefit to juice is I think there's slightly more vitamin C.
Okay. There's slightly fewer chemicals in juice. Kool-Aid is chemicals and sugar, right? Juice.
You can make it without the sugar actually. So you could just have like very sour like beverage.
Yeah.
You're drinking a sour beverage right now.
Is this sour? It's water.
It's water with lemon, without sugar.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's got. Maybe that's why my mouth is feeling the way that it's feeling. I don't know. Like a little bit of pucker, I guess.
Like raspberry pucker?
I don't know. Do you have a raspberry pucker?
What?
That's as close as I've gotten, right?
Yeah, it was an illusion.
Yeah, it was an illusion.
You didn't go further.
I didn't go further. I did not say which part of the anatomy I was referring to.
Cool. So yeah, you made this punch. You put pizzas. Did you make pizzas? Like were they?
People were making pizzas, and what I was doing.
Not delivery DiGiorno. Was it like the pizza at the place that we were at last night?
I don't know. Because I wasn't at the place you were at last night. No, they bought. They did buy pre-made dough, like pre-made crust to put it on, but then everything else was people making their pizzas, and so you. Could
there were personal pans.
No, they were slightly bigger than personal. So that was one thing we had to keep an eye on was we didn't make too many because there'd be more pizza than there
people?
were people.
I could eat a whole pizza in my head.
Well, I wish I'd brought one to show.
No, I wouldn't have been able to eat it like that's the thing. Like I remember on evenings like when I would drink heavily and then be hungover the next day. I remember ordering like garbage, either Papa John's or Domino's or something like that, and getting a large and eating all of it.
To get rid of the hangover?
Well, it wouldn't get rid of the hangover, but it would make me feel like
a human being again.
No.
Okay.
Make me feel like a fucking piece of garbage that just ate an entire large pizza.
So you feel like a garbage in that way instead of feeling like garbage just.
No, I still feel like garbage, and so I go back to sleep. So yeah, pizza.
I get Well,
when pizza's making you helping your hangover, you can feel like a piece of shit anytime.
There was room for 2 pizzas in my mom's oven and 1 pizza upstairs. So that's when there was a third pizza that needed to be cooked, I was bringing that pizza upstairs. I don't
ever say cooked when I say pizza. I say baked.
Okay. Okay.
Because you bake a pizza, you don't cook it.
Baking is a subset of cooking.
Yes,
it not?
But you don't like. Would you say
right?
I cooked this cake?
I cooked this cake. I don't make cakes, but no, probably not.
Yeah, okay. So it's baking a pizza.
No, I cooked the pizza.
No. Stop saying cooked a pizza. You sound like a fucking idiot when you say it that way.
I'm saying cooked the pizza. So anyway, now I wasn't necessarily prepared for this, and I'd been up writing, creating, art stuffing since 6, and I'd been up since 5 when I was working out. So I was dead tired, and I couldn't social anymore. So I went upstairs and I laid down for a nap. And by the time I got up, it was my brother coming up to say, "Hey, you think you still want to go to this thing?" So my brother was in town. I guess that's news.
Which is why I was speaking to him yesterday.
Yeah. And so he came upstairs and asked if I was still thinking of going. And groggily, I was like, "Oh yeah, I definitely do." And then I remembered my wife, whose back was my wife, whose back was so bad that she could barely stand up on her own. And I was like, I probably shouldn't. So, I double checked with her, and she was, she would have let me go. But it was one of those where, like, I mean, you have a wife now.
Yeah, she was there too.
and the way in which someone that you love, that loves you, will sometimes be like, yeah, go ahead and do that. But that really it would be better if you.
Well, we don't have kids, so we don't have that.
Well, I mean, and most of the time you go out. Okay, I'm trying to think of
unless there's like something competing, like competing priorities, like
you end up going out together right now.
I mean, yeah, or like if it's like if it's like, hey, I'm gonna go out girls' night, whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. I get to be in my jammies and play whatever video game I'm playing, and if it's like me just deciding to go do pinball after work or something like that, she's not going to be upset, and because she gets to watch whatever shows that I don't necessarily want to watch, and so it's never usually a problem if one of us is doing a thing.
Okay. I was just trying to relate. I remember,
and I'm saying that it's harder to relate because we don't have kids.
Well, I remember having these same kinds of conversations with Steph before we had kids, not long before we had kids, but there were times when I was in grad school and it was a question of, okay, can I go hang out with my grad school friends since I'm in Cambridge? And there would be times when I could sense in her voice the answer was really no. I'd really like you to come home because I haven't seen you.
Well, I think that the thing that it's not a problem is that since we are kind of homebodies, that we actually...
You prefer to stay home and be
yeah, and so like we need to sort of actively like get pumped to go out, like, and so like when we do have plans like to go out or do stuff with people, it's like yeah, we're doing this because we need to get out, and we often have fun doing it, but it's just getting to that point where we're like out and about. Yeah.
So you did go out last night?
Yes.
So where did you go?
We went.
What was this thing that you went to that I was supposed to go to and didn't go to?
It was a surprise party for our buddy Rob's 40th birthday party.
40.
And his wife put it together, and I should have like forwarded the messages that she sent to my wife because I didn't really read them so well. And so, like, she's like, what's going on? Do we need to do anything? Like, did we need to, like, on the way there, she's like, oh, we didn't get him a card. And I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. But there was something in the invitation that said, don't bring cards or presents or anything. Just come and, like, have fun. Or, like, bring pictures of Rob from yesteryear or something like that. I think that was the thing she asked for.
Right.
And of course, I didn't read any of that. And I'm like, don't worry about a card because I don't care. Not because Beth said don't worry about it.
Right. But it is good when we share these things with our partner.
Right. Like, especially, a partner that is more likely to read.
Yes. Yeah. And that's one stereotype that's one male stereotype that I totally fall into. Like, it's not that I don't want to read it, but it is that. And it's not always...
She said it like 3 times. Like, I had so many opportunities to read this fucking thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's what... Like, it would... I should have... Well, Stephanie did know about it, and she knew more about it than I did. Like, even as far as yesterday, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And yesterday morning, before she heard her back, it was like, well, John's going to go... Like, she knew what was happening. I was like, I don't know.
So yeah, it started out at a roller rink. So like I think that was the ruse, like to get Rob to come out, and I guess Beth.
Does he like roller skating?
He has his own. So yeah, and he did the shoot the duck thing, and I think Becky got a video of him doing it. But like it was like of the people from old school, there was Brian, myself, and well, Becky was there too, but she didn't know Rob when growing up, but she was with us, so we kind of kept in a unit. Everyone else was like, I've got 1 or 2 kids that are currently roller skating. So,
Right, yeah.
and like mostly people that we didn't know.
Yeah.
I think the one person, Mary, that was from high school, but she was there with her little kids. So,
Okay. Yeah.
and this other guy, Adam, which one of my favorite things of the night. John sees Adam, holds out his hand to shake it.
Yeah.
And I'm just
John, my brother John?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
This was well, your brother wasn't there yet
Okay.
when we first got there.
Yeah.
And so he goes to shake Adam's hand. Adam just completely whiffs by him.
Oh God.
I lost my shit laughing.
Okay.
Made me laugh
There's
so
a couple
much.
different Adams I'm thinking. I'll have to ask you.
I won't. I will.
I'll ask you after.
Yeah.
And that's funny.
And fucking, so yeah, like that was that. We were like, okay, and it's weird. Like I don't remember these things existing when we were kids.
Roller rinks?
No, not roller rinks. These things that they had for the kids at the roller rink, but they were sort of like walkers.
Oh, I don't remember those at all. Maybe
They were
I
just
would've
walkers
tried-
with wheels. So basically, you could use them to.
I
to
might have
keep
actually tried roller skating if that existed.
keep steady, but it
No, that's not true. I'll tell
it
you a
didn't
story
seem
about roller
to like it helped them be standing,
Right.
but it didn't help them with any sort of technique to help them like get off of
Actually
like sit
move?
necessarily
Oh,
the
interesting.
training wheels.
Okay.
Like because like when you're on a bicycle,
Yeah.
like
The training wheels.
the training wheels are on either side of the back wheel.
Yeah, and they're
so
not
like
even. So it's
so you can tell it like you can tell when you're not doing the thing you need to do to ride the bike correctly.
right. Yep.
And so
Not so these weren't quite training wheels. I was gonna say I did go to a roller rink every Friday night for about a year, and was never tempted to actually skate.
I would do it on occasion, and then I would always regret it.
Yeah.
Because I was not very like I didn't like I thought that you had to have your wheels facing forward, and then I would just go nowhere. You have to have them to the side, like a
V, like
a
not
V.
quite a V.
Yeah,
but
like
not
a V.
not a wide V.
yeah, just and then that's when you're pushing. Like, well, I mean, I can't
pushing into the
I didn't,
wide V.
Yeah, so you're moving your feet. Stop it.
It was just an illusion. It was just an innuendo.
You're moving your feet, and then so that way you're progressing forward, and you're not like the wheels aren't facing all in the same direction.
Okay,
so
right.
when you if you move in a direction, all the wheels are going to go in the same direction, and basically you're going to get knocked out from under yourself. Or
Okay.
you're going to go ass over tea kettle,
Yeah.
and just or fall on your butt, which is a lot of what happening. And like there was so many, there was adults like that were skating around that were fine.
Yeah.
And there was so many circumstances where like a kid almost got taken out by an adult that was just skating like not a great neck or breakneck. Is that the
I think so. Yeah.
breakneck speed?
Right.
Nope, they were just skating around, and then
Yeah.
this kid was just fucking in the way with his little walker, like. But I don't know, like it. I don't know if it helps. I mean, it helps them like get up and be
Yeah.
on skates, but I don't know if it helps them learn to skate.
See, I feel like it might eventually, right? That actual thing, if they're using it, probably doesn't teach them anything. But if that is enough to get them comfortable to get on the rink in the first place, and then after a while when they're comfortable, they get rid of that, that's a huge improvement. And I say this as somebody who didn't try a whole bunch of shit because there was never anything that eased me into it. I never learned to swim properly because there was never anything to ease me into it. And I never
Took the swimming lessons?
Nope.
I did them at Freeman Lake, or it was Crystal Lake when we were growing up.
Right. Yeah. No, never.
But then
did.
I guess they changed the name because of because they changed it to like Bruce Freeman, I think, is the person,
runner guy.
Yeah, and which is named, a lot of local things are named after him.
The
and
rail trail is named after.
Yeah,
him
and so I think that's why it's Freeman Lake instead of Crystal Lake, and Crystal Lake was the name of the lake in fucking Friday the 13th. So I think that getting rid of that
was probably a goal.
Yeah.
There was some other thing that I was thinking of as you were talking about the roller skating apparatus. There were a bunch of them where it's like I never tried that because
I was never like I could like to a certain extent roller skate and not always be falling over, but I was never good enough to like do anything besides sort of skate around in a circle, which is what you do when you roller skate.
Well, the first time, I mean, I alluded to this, but the first time I ever went to a roller skating rink was to Roller Kingdom in 1993 or 4. And I was there on a date, which didn't turn out that well. But
This was in high school. I thought, like, didn't you go in earlier times? Like because I remember in middle school, that was the thing to do on like either Friday or Saturday night.
No, it was, by 93, 94, it was Metal Night on Friday night. And the girl that I'd been set up with was there, took one look at me and kind of, it was friendly, but went off and hung out with some other guy. But what became very apparent to me very early, and I'm a guy...
You weren't metal enough, obviously.
I was definitely not metal enough, and I've written about this in Ollie Left Behind. I have a story called Metal Night at the Roller Kingdom, which is about this.
You just needed to work on your mullet.
Apparently. Which I didn't, because nobody showed me how to ease into a mullet. Hold on. Nobody. I did not. Nobody showed me. I just, and also, I was aware that various sexual things were, or proto-sexual things were happening in the booths at the Roller Kingdom. So there was
booths, like
so there's a snack bar so the Roller Kingdom in Tingsboro, Massachusetts. Hold on, I'm going to show me how to ease into a mullet. There was a snack bar. I don't know if there still is.
There was a snack bar at the place we were at last night, and the pizza looked exactly like the pizza that they had at Roller Kingdom. I don't know if they get like roller rinks, like it's like there's a like roller rink supply company.
Yeah, there might be
that gives the dough and sauce and exact cheese that is in every fucking pizza.
Is it the same? Did it look the same as something like?
I didn't taste it, so I
World?
didn't. Yeah, it kind of looked like that as well.
So it's like whatever it is, it's like.
But they were making the pizzas. They didn't like. It's not like they got them frozen or anything. Like when we got there, there was a woman putting that sauce in the middle.
Yeah, no, I think the same thing with Fun
World.
With Fun World, when we go for my mom's company outing every December, that's what I'll see them doing as we're going in. Is they're taking, I don't know if it's just refrigerated crusts and then spooning the sauce on and all the cheese. Anyway, so there's a snack bar at the Roller Kingdom, and by the second or third time I went there, I became aware that there were. You mentioned heavy petting.
I said light petting.
Sorry, light petting. There was some heavy petting of the groin areas of certain guys with leather and mullets by the girls that I was becoming friends with. And there, I think, was the notion in my pubescent teenage mind that if I played my cards right, eventually
you would eventually get leather pants.
That, yes. That's exactly what I was thinking. I've never worn leather pants.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't.
My friend John, not my brother John, but my friend John was somebody who wore, I don't know if they were leather or vinyl pants when we were in a band together way back in the day. He was the one that went.
He wanted everyone to see his junk.
Apparently. Yeah. Well, he had a lot more lady friends than I did. So,
that's nice.
So maybe showing off your junk with leather pants is the way to do it. So what else?
Yep, because everybody knows way to attract women is by showing them your penis. I mean, obviously, that's what guys in online dating do. So.
They heard that rumor, and
they're like, oh well, obviously women need to look at my dick.
Okay, so what else? So you were at a roller rink. There was not great looking pizza. Kids
falling around. I mean that like it took a while for the novelty of kids falling over to wear off. So that got us at least an hour, and then Rob got there and we hung out for a little bit. Then your brother got there and we hung out for a little bit, and then Brian, Becky, and I hightailed it to the next place. And it's a good thing we did because it was crowded as fuck.
Oh, okay.
But we managed to get like 3 seats at the bar, and there was a fourth one next to it. And so one person didn't show up to sit in that seat. So we had a little bit more. So like as people filtered out of the place, you know, we've got a nice little cluster at the bar of the people that were there for after times.
Yeah.
Which was a smaller group, you know,
Because
you know,
a lot of people were there with families. So I imagine most of them
were gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so it was just Rob, Beth, a couple of Beth's coworkers, and you know, your brother Brian, Becky, and me.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a good group for a second thing like that. I don't want to disparage the bigger gatherings, but when I've done something like that where like there's a bigger gathering and then there's a smaller thing afterwards. Really, what powers me through the bigger thing is imagining the smaller thing afterwards. Because I'm not great in a big.
That's why we were like, you know, like this is a lot more for the kids part, like, and the after part is for the grown-ups, which
right.
And the grown-ups that can be there. I mean, it's not like, you know, we're not saying that you're not grown up because you have kids, because you are actually kind of more grown up. But
yeah.
But you know, for us less grown-ups.
But I think that was I mean, it was sad to not go for a bunch of reasons, but that was one of the reasons I was most excited to go. Was I thought Beth had planned a pretty damn good event, and I'm not just saying that because I know she listens to our show every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does help her sleep.
But you know, that combination of things, I think, is the best for people about our age, where sometimes there are people who have kids and sometimes there aren't, and that way you get everybody involved, and it's like, okay, people who have kids can show up to this part and they can leave.
Well, the thing is,
people who, you know, have time to hang out will go hang out after.
We would have only gone to the second part of the thing if like the surprise part wasn't like boxed or like sort of wrapped into the first part. So,
well, maybe Beth was just trying to get you to have a little bit of fun, and you did get to watch a bunch of kids fall down.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I beat a raid in Pokemon, like, you know.
I beat a what?
A raid.
Raid. What's a raid in Pokemon?
I guess you haven't played Pokemon Go in a while.
No. I since that initial buzz wore off, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Caught like 6 Pidgeys and you're like, I'm done with it.
I don't like to have fun. We all know this.
Yes, I'm very well aware.
Yeah, I wish that I did. It makes me sad that I don't know how to have fun.
You know, I mean, I could give you lessons, Chris.
But I have too many things I want to do in my life, and I fail at all of them.
So, you know, just instead have some fun, because it's easier to succeed at just doing some nonsense thing that doesn't require any sort of achievement.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I like stressing out about things that have achievement.
Okay. I mean, I like part of the fun that I have. There is achievement as far as playing pinball and whatnot, but you know.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could go back in time and play the video games I used to play. I look at video games.
You
today
can get one of fucking those things. They're like $40.
Yeah.
Or go like, I don't know, what games are the games you want to play? You were mentioning earlier before we started the show, like playing Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Well, I've been watching the YouTube wrap-ups of various fatalities from is it Mortal Kombat 11?
Yeah.
That's the one's coming up. And simultaneously, there's some stuff where I'm like, that's too gross even for me.
Right.
But then there's other stuff where I'm like, oh, that's so absurd. There's a level, that's the line that Mortal Kombat seems to, like, they're always walking, and sometimes they go too far in one direction and too far in the other. I like it when it's still right on that line of absurd.
I think that's what I like similarly like about horror.
Yeah. Like
horror movies. Like, I want there to be a bit of absurdity there, because like when it's actually realistic, like it
actual body horror like does not, you know, like what 7 is hard to watch for me.
Well, I dig 7, but that's more of a suspense thriller as opposed to a horror film.
No, exactly. The horror scenes in 7 are hard to watch. The suspense is great. I've only watched it a couple times, but I love watching 7.
It is always raining in that fucking movie. And I've said this before on the show, because I had watched it, like, I think it was, I was just going through Netflix. I think it was when Becky was out of town. I'm like, I'll watch 7 again. And I'm like, oh, it holds up.
Yeah. We were talking about horror. body. What were we talking about?
Uh,
You got horribly off.
You got horribly video games or like
Oh,
playing,
video games. Yeah, no. So
you could like you can get probably a cheap copy of like the Genesis or Super Nintendo version of like Mortal Kombat and like play it on one of these fucking things.
Yeah.
Like I'm pointing to my Retron 3.
Right.
So you can play Genesis or Super Nintendo games on it, and so get one of those and then play those games. Like those games are really cheap because they were really mass produced. So like you probably get a copy of one or the other.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat 1 or 2.
There are emulators and stuff out there as well.
Yeah, but those are, if you want to be like you had mentioned before, you like giving money to whatever.
Yes, but the difference between using an emulator and buying a used copy of something that.
But at least it's for the legit thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to I'm not against people using emulators,
Right.
But you had said
I thank you for saying that. I do occasionally worry a lot about that.
Especially I really don't mind people like using emulators if a version of the game isn't easily accessible.
Right. Yeah.
Like, there was for the longest time Suikoden 2 was I'm still borrowing your brother's copy of it. Like but I bought it on the PlayStation Network on the PS3.
Yeah.
And so like that game like I think goes for like used like $160.
Oh, Jesus, wow.
And like brand new, I think it's well into several grand.
Wow, that's no. So I mean,
Because it was like so we get in like the first one was all right, had a pretty decent amount of just copies made, but then the second one like Konami just didn't do it, and they made some, but then it just they didn't push it as much as I think the first one, because like the first one came out around the time of the launch of the PlayStation, and then the second one was like a pretty decent amount of time after, I think, and I think they rushed the release of it, and there was like a whole to do with that game, but like that, and I think Earthbound before it became available on like the Wii U eShop or like you can get it on that little Super Nintendo Classic thing.
Oh yeah.
But like Mother 3 is just like one of those games, like which is basically the sequel to Earthbound, that they have not released, and like there's been like this really good fan community that translated it, like did a great job translating it, and they like, but Nintendo is just like, yeah, we're not going to release it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean.
And so, like, if you're going to play something like that, something you can't get
right
legally, I'm totally okay with that. Because, like, if a company does not want to make money, like, that's their fault.
Yeah. The other one that I've wanted to play, and I think it's because Melody is watching it on YouTube, is Carmen Sandiego, which is like they're dumb things that I want to play. But like, I'd love to play Oregon Trail again. Like, sorry, Oregon Trail. I gotta work.
You're about to go there.
Jesus
Christ.
There, so I should work on my Oregon versus Oregon. Yeah, it's Oregon, right? Like good, not gone.
Oregon meat.
Yeah. I'm going there on Wednesday.
That's great, Chris.
It's not. I'm not. I gotta fly like all.
I'm gonna send Mike over with his kid, and he's gonna slip notes under your door at your youth hostel or whatever the hell you're staying.
Yeah. Well, it's the same hotel that I stayed at when I went in September, but they do have it's like a bunk area, and it looks very nice. It used to be the hotel used to be a sailor's hotel that's been completely remodeled. And so they have the rooms upstairs, and then downstairs they have,
I mean, when I went to Portland, not Portland, when I went to Seattle, I stayed at a hotel that had, you have a separate room, but you share a bathroom.
This is the style that I had last time, but I like.
It was pretty inexpensive. Like my room, like for I think 5 nights was like less than $500. So
yeah. Well, this was a case of the separate room with the shared bathroom was about triple the cost of, and it wasn't expensive, but it was still triple the cost of staying in one of the bunks. and I
Get a receipt.
I have been asked to go by my institution, but my institution could not pay for it, so I needed to go on the cheap, as it were. Okay. So, yeah.
That's always how I go. That's how I roll.
You got to roll on the cheap. You're
rolling in the cheap.
There's so many things that I can put in there. Rolling in the cheap. Do you deodorant wise? You roll on the cheap?
No,
rolling in the cheap. Yeah.
I usually get like these several packs of like the 5 packs from Amazon at this point.
Of a particular
just.
Yeah.
What the fuck do I use? No, not Arm & Hammer. The Old Spice.
Oh, okay, I use Gillette. It's because it's the best a man can get.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give money to the Kraft family.
I don't think he owns Gillette. I mean, the stadium is called Gillette, but I don't think he owns.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna keep going with that because I don't want to think that I'm funding his
sexcapades.
His sexcapades with underage.
Was it underage?
I don't know, or no, it was. I don't. Maybe it wasn't underage. It was just illegal.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Let's just say allegedly, just in case.
Allegedly.
We don't want the Kraft suing us.
Allegedly, you can find the show notes for this episode at clarkwoods.com/hot/230.
Wow, that's a lot of episodes.
Allegedly.
No, that is for reals.
That is for real. A lot. I was about to stop it, but I remembered we have to also tell people that allegedly.
You can for realsies email us hot@clarkwoods.com. Is
hot? Yeah, sorry, it is.
No, you promised you wouldn't do that until Leo comes back.
That was not a full on.
No, that was
not a. Maybe I just missed Leo.
Yeah, you do.
I was doing it like halfway to call Leo back from where from whence he.
Yeah, you're gonna have to wait at least another
couple of years.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
I'm sorry.
Hot.
No.